morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Patrick. I am the product manager for WooThemes for WooCommerce. So I like to talk to customers to make sure we're building the right software. And here today I have Cody DeArmond from ShipStation, and he's the manager of trials and acquisitions, which basically means he heads up the team of account managers for new accounts, so he kind of does the same thing, talking to new customers to make sure they have everything they need. I'm going to pass it over to Cody in just a second, but before I do, I just wanted to mention that we have a hashtag for this event, and we'll be taking questions during the event. So if you have a question at any point during the event, use the hashtag WooWebinar. That's all one word, just Woo, W-O-O, and then webinar. Use that, ask it right away on Twitter, that way other people can see it, and we'll have someone on our end collect the questions, and we will try to answer them at the end. So just as a test right now, if you guys want, where are you guys tuning in from today? I'm tuning in from Denver, Colorado. Cody, where are you tuning in from?
Yeah, ShipStation, we're all here under one roof in Austin, Texas.
Very cool. I believe we have everything ready to go. So Cody, if you want to take it away and maybe tell us a little bit about ShipStation, I think let's get this party started and talk, and sorry, I should say what we're going to talk about. Just talk about the best way to handle post-holiday returns.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Appreciate the time this morning. We're super excited to be presenting to everyone. There's probably a lot of crossover here, so I'm sure a lot of the audience is already familiar a little bit with what ShipStation or similar services do, but we're basically making the shipping portion of your e-commerce operation as easy as possible. So you get an order through WooCommerce, that address, customer, order information automatically shows up in ShipStation, and from there we make it really easy for you to create shipping labels for the different carriers of your choice. With that, there's a lot of different things that we can do. Of course, we do post back to WooCommerce and the other selling channels, so we're closing out that loop for you. But a big portion of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis is, of course, your customer interaction. So with that, this time of year especially is going to be heavily involved with your return policies. How you handle those holiday returns can really make or break your holiday season. So that's what we're going to get into today. We've got a little presentation, some tips, things that we've seen from our users that have made their holiday seasons especially beneficial, especially successful over the past few years. Again, we appreciate the time. We appreciate the guys over at Woo having us on, and feel free to chime in with questions using that hashtag. We'll be happy to address those at the end. Thanks again, guys, and we're going to go ahead and jump into the presentation. Feel free to keep those questions coming. All right, guys, so as we mentioned today, we're going to be focusing on how to handle your post-holiday returns.
Cody, can I interrupt you? Do you have the presentation going on your end? It's not showing up for me.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. 1 second, we'll make sure
it's all good. Huzzah! You're good to go.
There we go, much better. All right, appreciate the patience there. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're focusing here on how to handle your post-holiday returns. Again, this is going to really determine the entire success of your holiday season. So, you know, if things are going great up to December 25th, up to the 1st, that's great, but then if things go south come January, it may leave a bad taste in your mouth. So we're going to go through some tips, some pointers here, just some things that we've noticed that can make things go a little bit smoother for you and, of course, your customers as well. Again, if you do have questions, feel free to chime in using the hashtag WooWebinar. We're happy to go over anything that comes up at the end of the presentation. And of course, just a little bit more background information on who you have here on the line here. Of course, we've got Patrick with WooCommerce, and then I'm Cody here with ShipStation, broadcasting live from Austin, Texas this morning. Okay, so a few things about what we're going to go over here. Steps to prevent holiday returns. So best case scenario, you never have to get into the returns game to begin with. A few things that can help you go that way. Building a customer-friendly return policy. A few different tips, tricks, pointers, things that can make the process go smoother when you do have to get into returns. How to handle return requests, the back and forth with your customer, how to make that go as smoothly as possible. And then, of course, how to handle physical returns, things that you can do in ShipStation, but also things that you can do on your own to make the process be a success. So just a few statistics to give you some background information here. When you're looking at the general calendar of the e-commerce year, December 26th, 2.5 times higher than normal returns. So through the roof. December 25th, maybe that speaks to bad gift giving, maybe that speaks to buyer's remorse, but you are seeing these returns go through the roof right after the holidays. And even still going on from the 26th, on the 27th, you're still seeing double the returns that you would normally see. Geographically speaking, this hits those of you in the Midwest the most. We've got Ohio coming in over 25% of their return rates, Illinois just behind. So maybe if you're in those regions, you might pay special attention to what we have going on here today. So upfront, best case scenario, your customer gets their order, they love it, you never hear from them in the vein of returns. So a few ways that we can make that happen. Product pictures, so what can you do as far as your presentation? Informative descriptions, making sure your customer has all the information they need up front. User reviews, of course, quality checks, making sure that you are shipping out what you're supposed to be, and then, of course, inform staff and then frequently asked questions. So more information that you can present to the customer, the better. So starting out, product pictures. I know this seems pretty basic, but we have seen this make a pretty big impact on your returns and your customer satisfaction here. So multiple angles and options. Again, the more the customer can see of what they're ordering, the better, and the more information that they have up front, it's going to reduce the possibility that they feel like they didn't get what they paid for, or there was some confusion over what they were ordering. Mimic product photos you admire. So say there's someone else in your space, or maybe even a totally different space. Maybe it's just a website or a blog or an Instagram account that you follow on a regular basis that you're really drawn to. Feel free, copy their style. Mimic those product photos that you admire, because there's a good chance if you're drawn to those, your customers will be as well. And then, of course, this goes as well, upgrade your camera. So, maybe you can get by with the iPhone and Instagram photos and things like that. That's definitely a quick way to do things on the go. But we do see that if there's ever a time to do it, you can definitely justify the cost for upgrading to a DSLR, things like that this time of year to really get that quality photo up even higher. Of course, that's going to help with your conversions as well. I know personally when I'm going through taking a look, even if it's something just on eBay, if it's something that's nice, that's professional looking, I'm feeling a lot better about where that's coming from, as opposed to if it's just a quick blurry cell phone pic, things like that. So kind of helping out on both ends there. A well-informed customer is less likely to have a return, but then also the better your presentation, the more likely you are to convert that customer as well. So continuing on here, informative descriptions. So consistency is a really big deal here. With that, you want to take a look at your industry standards. Say you're selling TVs and there's a standard for how the dimensions are displayed, the pixels, all of those characteristics. Well, then you don't want to go and just completely off course and provide some measurement or some description that's going to make it hard for your customers to compare apples to apples. So consistency is key. Look across your industry, look across your space, and see how some of the people that you look up to, other companies that are in your space, even if some of your competitors, taking a look to see, hey, this is what people are expecting when they're coming to shop for a product in this space. Especially in the clothing market as well, your accurate sizing charts are going to be huge when it comes to your returns. So, small, medium, large, extra large, that can mean a million different things on a million different sites. But if you're presenting your measurements, if you're presenting, shoulder-to-shoulder measurements, dimensions, things like that, a detailed breakdown. I know some of my favorite stores, I may be in between sizes, but if they have a quick breakdown of, hey, if these are your measurements, this is going to be your size, that's really going to go a long way. One, it takes a lot of the guesswork out for the customer, but then two, that if you are giving that breakdown and hey, this to this range is definitely going to be a medium, large, et cetera, that really cuts down the possibility that when they open that box and try it on for the first time, they're not getting what they expected. That's a big thing there. If someone buys something and it doesn't fit, of course, that's going to be, probably the largest percentage of returns that we see here coming through with our users. And so the more accurate, the more precise, the more specific you can give breakdowns on those sizing charts, going beyond just the simple small, medium, large, that's really going to go a long ways. So continuing on here, how to prevent these returns from happening in the first place. So user reviews. Just going to provide an honest opinion. Again, a lot of you guys are already doing this, but maybe you didn't think about it in the means of preventing returns. But of course, you want to manage and moderate these reviews as well. So definitely don't want to just fall into the trap of deleting something that you don't like, responding to customer issues, being upfront with what you're doing here, thanking customers that are providing glowing reviews. All of this is going to go to cultivate this community that you have going on among your users, and new customers coming in are going to be much more likely to take the word over over your fellow customers than they would just be hearing it from you. I know I do it all the time now. We see it come up a lot more with our users, customers. It feels like I see it every time I go to the store now. Even if it's just a simple purchase, with it being so easy to pull up information on that product. I know even if it's just a mundane purchase, if I'm ever in between brands, in between choices, maybe I have multiple options for something, I'm pulling up those user reviews. It's so easy to do it on my phone. It just takes a minute. It doesn't really slow me down in the purchasing process. So even if it's on the go like that, it can definitely go to serve credibility with your customers. If it's not a retail situation, if it's just e-commerce, that is going to make your conversions that much easier if people are seeing that other people love this. Also, they're already going to have that in their mind. So when they do get that gift, when they do get that product, when they open the box the first time, they're already going into it with the mindset of, hey, all these other people love this. I'm going to love this too. And so that goes a long ways to really even have the thought of a return, diminished in your customer's mind. And then just a few more things. Of course, on the physical side of things, when you're going through your shipping process, your fulfillment process, quality checks. It sounds really basic, but you have to make sure that what you're shipping out is what's supposed to be going out. That, of course, is going to be a no-brainer return if your customer gets an order that isn't what they asked for. And, of course, that's going to kind of hurt your credibility as well if they don't feel like they can rely on you to get what they ordered. In ShipStation, we have several different ways that make that easy. Pick lists, packing slips. So there's several different ways of going about doing that. I would recommend some sort of document along those lines, a pick list that your warehouse workers can easily go through and check off, confirm, hey, this is what's in the box, no problem. Packing slips, same boat. You can have those be customer facing, put them in the box, they actually get the message that you want them to see, but your staff can also use that as a means of making sure that they filled what they're supposed to fill here. Of course, other systems available as well. Maybe if you're getting into a larger operation with your warehouse, and this is a big concern for you guys, maybe look into a barcoding system as well. You do have the ability to add those to your packing slips in ShipStation, so we see a lot of users who are actually going through scanning products, scanning orders, making sure that what they're shipping out is the appropriate order, customers getting exactly what they asked for, because of course, if I open that box on Christmas and it's not what I ordered, one, I'm going to be much less likely to order something from a particular store again, but I'm going to turn around and send that right back. And as I mentioned here, your staff is going to be a huge part of this process as well. Not only are they the ones filling boxes, but a very good chance that they're the ones that are going to be actually talking with your customers here. With that, it's going to be really important to have several different contact options at checkout. Maybe it's not feasible for you guys to always have a dedicated phone line or a live chat option available, but you do want to have some semblance of contact there. Whatever works for your particular size operation, but even if it's something as basic as an email address, customers are going to want some way to reach out. And with that, that back and forth between the customer, that can definitely help curb the returns on that side as well. So, maybe a customer has a question about a product. Instead of just boxing it up and sending it right back, maybe they can go back and forth, even if it's just an email. They can ask you guys, hey, maybe how am I using this particular product? Or, maybe I misunderstood what this was supposed to do, things like that. Any process where you're going to be able to educate your customer on your product, it's going to make things stick a lot more. We do see that the customers respond really well to live options like phone numbers and live chat. So if that's something that's at your disposal, definitely recommend those processes as well. Also, something that can reduce the need for having that back and forth with the customer is that if you get the same questions over and over and over, make those visible, display those there near the checkout page or somewhere highly visible on your site. I know for us, an example would be that when people are checking their tracking numbers, oftentimes the customer gets that tracking number right away, and they get the automated email that says, "Hey, thanks for your order. Your order shipped. Here's your tracking number." Oftentimes those generate right at label creation. So your end customers clicking that link, they check FedEx.com or UPS.com, and they see no information on that tracking link, and they think it's broken because there's not any movement on the tracking link yet. So that's an example of a frequently asked question that we get. It might be something that comes up often for you guys as well. If you have a lot of customers that are reaching out about their tracking numbers, maybe that's something that you use to kind of start this list of frequently asked questions. But again, just document the questions that you are getting, whether that be through email, whether you have a system like Zendesk, whether you have a live chat or a phone number. It's key to just gather the input that you're getting from your customers here, because that can cut down on a lot of your time as well. Not only are you going to be saving time on your staff side of things, making it smoother on your operations, but oftentimes if a customer gets their question answered up front, one, they're either more clear about what they're getting, which is obviously going to cut down on returns, or two, of course, you don't get what we would call unqualified orders. People ordering something that they thought was something else. So we've seen that make a great impact. Again, that can be quickly set up. Really doesn't require a whole lot of man hours to get that going. So a quick frequently asked questions screen at or near checkout is definitely something that we recommend. All right, so now that we've gone through how to stop returns from happening to begin with, we all know that it is going to come up. So on the other side of things, how do we make this return policy as smooth, as customer-friendly, as efficient for you guys as possible? So we're going to go through a few different things here. So keeping customers informed, being upfront, giving them the information that they need. Of course, you don't need anyone to feel like they've been tricked, duped, anything like that, because not only is that going to result in more returns up front, it's going to kill your repeat business as well. Keep it simple. So whatever that means for you guys, whether that's including a prepaid return label for every order or giving 30 days returns, no questions asked. We can go into a few more examples, but we do see that the more straightforward you can keep the policy, the more effective it's going to be. Stay flexible. So maybe you don't draw a hard line in the sand. It's generally going to be better to keep a friendly customer that can turn into more reviews, like we talked about, than it is just going to be to salvage the one individual order. And then free returns, as I mentioned, it's going to be another option as well. ShipStation has a couple different ways that make this really easy to set up. We'll go into the different things that we see our users doing with free returns.
All right, guys. Appreciate the patience. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. We'll keep moving on here. So picking up where we left off. So say you do have to get into the returns game. A few things that we can do to make that go as smooth as possible. So as we mentioned, keeping your customers informed, keeping your return policy simple, staying flexible in the event that a customer does come to you with a return, and then a few ways you can go about making free returns. So again, a few stats to start you off with here, like we looked at on the map earlier. So Granify analyzed out of 3 million shoppers and almost a million transactions, the return policy consistently outranked price and social proof, your reviews, as the deciding factor when it came to making a purchase. So even though it seems like a bit of an afterthought, this is something that's really high priority for your customers. UPS reports that over 66% of shoppers review the return policy, and 82% react positively to free returns. So hopefully it doesn't come up, it doesn't come to the point where they're sending things back to you, but just the fact that you make that available to them is already improving your credibility, already improving your standing with your customers. So keeping your customers informed, we want to make this easy to find. You want to be upfront. You want to give the impression that, hey, we have nothing to hide here because returns come up so infrequently because you're going to love our product. So link to your return policy from your home, from your checkout, and from your product pages. So anywhere that would really be relevant, anytime that you think that could come up in your customer's mind, we recommend making that front and center, making it really easy to find so that if a customer does have that question, it doesn't look like something that they have to go through and dig for and try and find out. Just as I mentioned there, do not make customers search for this, because the harder this return policy is to find, the more it makes it seem like you have something to hide, it more it makes it seem like, oh, return is something that I'm probably going to be interested in. And so with that, we just want to give an impression of openness, transparency here. Show your customers that, hey, this is where we stand on returns. And, in their minds, that's going to make it seem like it's that much less of a likelihood. So keeping this simple, really the rule of thumb here is that your return policy, why say in 5 words what you can say in 10? You want to keep this as short as possible, concise, and to the point. There's no need to make this confusing. So we want to make this easy to understand. What items can be returned? Maybe you have certain products, maybe it really doesn't make sense for them to be returnable if it's perishable or something along those lines. Are you giving them store credit versus a full refund? Again, all things that we want to be very upfront about. Be clear with your customers about what they can expect. Time frame to return. So, maybe it's a situation where yours are open-ended, but most frequently we see our users are specifying, hey, we accept returns within 7 days of your order, within 14 days of your order, within 30 days of your order. Whatever your policy may be, again, you do want to specify that, and again, making it clear is, one, going to establish your credibility, but then two, it's also going to make disputes about returns that much less likely, because you've made it plain language. This is what you can do, this is what we expect, this is what we accept. Now, free return shipping is going to be a big option that's available for you as well. In ShipStation, there's 2 main routes that our users go. You can either do this on demand, so if a customer asks you for a return and they send in an email, they send in a phone call, a live chat, whatever the case may be, and then you're generating that label on demand and then sending it to them. Or alternatively, if you're just upfront and you want to give every customer the option to do returns, it's really easy setup within ShipStation that every one of your outgoing labels generates with a return label as well. So kind of the 2 options that we have available in ShipStation, and those kind of correlate with what we see a lot of our users, how they approach their returns here. If it's a situation that your returns are coming up really infrequently, maybe it makes perfect sense for you guys to offer free return shipping. Again, that's going to bolster your reputation. That's going to make it look like you're that much more credible. And again, if you are given the option that it's a free return, it seems a little bit intuitive, because maybe that increases slightly the likelihood that you get a return. But really, the good that we see that do, financially, if it's feasible for your setup, it really can go a long ways. Moving on, staying flexible. So depending on your product, maybe it doesn't make sense to say, hey, you have 7 days, you have 14 days, you have 30 days, whatever the case may be. Maybe if your product line, or you have a well-established customer base that you do a lot of repeat business with, maybe it is worth not setting that hard deadline and working with your customers on a case-to-case basis. It can be a little bit more time-consuming if you are reviewing each individual case. But it can go a long way as far as establishing that credibility again with your customers. Different product lines, maybe this makes a little bit more sense. Again, if it's a perishable, obviously you don't want a return coming back on that 2 months down the road. But if it's something that can be in perfectly fine condition, if it's coming back 30 days after the fact, maybe that's something that's feasible for your operation. And again, go big. So you can even take the extra step here, and you can even use that as a push. You can set yourself apart from the other people in your space by saying, hey, we stand by our products. We know that you're going to love what you're buying from us. And so because of that, we don't care how long you have to return it. So 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Those are all frequent time frames that we see our users giving their customers for returns. And again, even though you may be opening yourself up to more potential returns, really the good that it's going to do for your brand, for your store, for your customer base, really can outweigh the slight increase that you might see in returns. So going into a little bit more detail here on the free returns. We see a lot more users nowadays that are setting this up just as a standard option. So everyone loves free. It's going to put your customer at ease. It can definitely help with conversion. So if a customer's on the fence, but you have a free return policy front and center right there, they're going to be that much more likely to just go ahead, make the click, add that to their cart, check out, because they know, hey, if something doesn't work out, it's not a problem, I can send this back. Absorb the cost into the product price. So we don't just want you taking a hit, say it's an extra $5 or whatever the case may be for that return label. You don't necessarily just want to take the hit on that. You can factor this into your product pricing, roll that under the hood, so to speak. And so it's going to make it to where you're not taking as much of a hit, but you're still able to promote that as free returns for your customers. And then above and beyond, as I mentioned, you can actually include a return label with your outgoing products. So it's a really easy setting within ShipStation. This is a really popular workflow for a lot of our users. It's just a quick setting to turn on that says, hey, every time I print out a label to ship something out, let's just go ahead and print out a return label with it as well. You can include it in with your packing slip. That way it's that much easier for your customer. If they do need to send a return, the label's already there. They're just peeling it off, putting it in the box, sending it right back. Something along the lines of like a Warby Parker. A lot of operations like this are going that route. In ShipStation, it's really easy to set that up, and so especially if you're doing a lot of volume with like your FedEx account, your UPS account, things like that, where you wouldn't be charged until the customer actually used it anyway. That's just an added bonus where you can actually just have that as a bit of a selling point, and it really doesn't cost you that much unless it's actually being used. So definitely something to consider there. Again, the two main routes that we see our users going when it comes to their free returns, either on demand, customer reaches out and says, hey, I need to send this back. At that point, you generate the return label and email it directly to them, or this option where you include the return label with every outgoing shipment. A few more stats for you here when it comes to your return policies. This is a study commissioned at Washington and Lee University. Customers who pay for their returns decrease spending at that store by 75 to 100% over 2 years. So again, we're looking at big picture here. Even though you don't want to take that hit, you want that order to stick, if you're thinking long run here, you really are going to do yourself a benefit by making this more upfront, by making your returns process easier, even though it seems like it may be is in your best interest to really discourage these returns. We see here that making that as easy as possible on your end customer is actually going to make you more money in the long run. And then the flip side of that, customers who don't pay increase their spending by 158 all the way up to 457% over that same 2-year period. So again, think big picture here. We know we want your holiday season sales to be as high as possible. We don't want those returns. We don't want things taking a dip on 26th or the 27th or January 2nd, whatever the case may be. But if you're thinking big picture here, if you're in it for the long haul, this really is going to give you a return on your investment, especially if you're factoring that pricing into the product pricing. As we mentioned, you're really getting this huge benefit at almost no cost to you if you go about it the smartest way. So handling your returns requests when you do have the issue that the customer needs to send something back. Different ways of going about this. So customer support, as we mentioned, phone calls, live chats, email tickets, things like that. Even if you are as upfront as possible, you did your due diligence, you made everything upfront, your customers are going to contact you, even if it's something as simple as I mentioned with the tracking numbers that haven't updated yet, or if it is a situation where they have product questions. It is a situation where even though you gave them a prepaid label, they still are going to reach out and contact you. We see that every day, and so you do want to make sure that you're available to them in whatever capacity you can be. As we mentioned, that can take several different forms, but the key here is that you do have a means to establish that communication back and forth with your customer, because even if you have covered all of your bases and you think that everything is as clear as possible and that it's all pretty much taken care of, you are still going to have customers that are reaching out. With that, it's even going to give you an avenue to possibly win over those returns. So say someone is kind of on the fence, or they're calling about returns, one, that gives you the ability to either tell them a little bit more about your product, educate them to the point that maybe they don't need that return, or if they do, it's a legitimate case where I have a clear reason for sending this back. That allows you to gather that information. So whether that be, you see repeat issues with sizing, or you see a certain product that repeatedly customers are confused about what it is, even though you may be taking the returns on this, that feedback is going to be beneficial for you guys down the long run. You can take that feedback and turn it into kind of what we were discussing at first. How to avoid returns to begin with. Maybe they weren't clear on the product, and so that leads you to update your product photos. Or maybe they didn't know, about the sizing, and so that leads you to make that more detailed sizing chart. All this feedback is going to allow you to tailor the process that much more to your customers, which in the long run, one, as we saw, will increase their repeat spending, and then two, in the long run, can decrease those returns as well. A little bit more about handling these returns. Of course, you can offer exchanges. Maybe it makes more sense for you guys to give store credit or to swap it out as opposed to just giving a straight refund. Can help keep your revenue up on that side of things. You are going to get into a little bit delicate territory here. You want to make sure that you're not getting a situation where people are just swapping out products on a whim and things like that. So maybe, again, that gets into your return policy, stating clear reasons where returns are and are not accepted. Of course, when you are talking to those people, again, this is all about establishing communication, and so at that point you're almost in a bit of a sales cycle. So you can mention, hey, well, I see you didn't like this for XYZ, but I actually have this alternative for you. Would you want to swap it out? Or they're saying, hey, this doesn't fit like I thought it would. Okay, well, that's great. I've actually got this size in stock. And so instead of just taking that and totally losing that sale, even though you may be paying a little bit in the postage, you still are able to salvage a little bit of that revenue as well. And then as far as actually receiving your return, so coming into broad categories here, of course you got your unopened product. So they never opened it, it's still in the original packaging, still sealed, it's good as new. Of course, this is basically going back into your stock. So you're sending that back to your warehouse. That's of course best case scenario. So you're getting things back just like you sent them out, and they're ready to turn around and go right back into new orders. Of course, the restocking, you want to make sure that your inventory is updated. If you're working with an inventory management system, update that accordingly. And then of course you want to repackage that as well, so when it does come time for it to go out in the next order, one, it's ready to go, and then of course you don't want to give the impression that someone's getting a return unless we're being upfront about that, and there are other ways of going about repurposing those that are being repackaged. We'll get into that here. Open product, so it clearly was used, and it's clearly not in the condition that you guys can just turn around and send it right back out. Maybe that's the seal's broken, maybe it was used, maybe the product's damaged either in transit or by the customer. We're going to send those over to the office for the warehouse for review. You don't want to just mindlessly toss things back on the shelf, because then it's just going to lead to another cycle where the customer down the road that gets that in the next shipment is probably going to send the return back again, and you're just going to be getting into more issues there. Now, it's not a total loss here. There are going to be different ways that we can go about repurposing these, even if they are damaged. We are seeing more and more of our users getting into multiple selling channels. So maybe you are taking all of your orders in one space. You have your website, and that's where you're directing all of your sales. And maybe you never really considered selling on eBay, things like that. But this is perfect setup for that. If it's something that you clearly can't just turn around and repackage and ship back out. An eBay listing, you can brand that as your outlet or your open package store, things like that. Most often customers are going to be open to that if you're just clear with what they're getting. Again, as I mentioned, eBay is a great place for this. So you can have your extra storefront there as a complement to your site, and so you can actually direct traffic that way. We're actually seeing that trend in the e-commerce space, because with ShipStation, we're actually offering unlimited selling channels. So you can connect as many different stores, eBay, Amazon, WooCommerce. You can connect all of these into one place, and so there's no extra cost there. We actually see those, instead of competing for traffic, that they complement each other. You get a customer on eBay, and that directs them to your WooCommerce site. Or maybe you have a side listing page on your WooCommerce site that links out to your eBay page where you sell your open package items, things like that. So again, try not to think of these as conflicting selling channels. Think of them more as a complement to each other. Or even if you don't want to open up an eBay or Amazon or anything like that, create an open box section on your site. A few years back, Patagonia was a big retailer that got heavy into this, and it was a great success for them. So being upfront and saying, hey, these are items that are available at a discount because they're open box, things like that. I know Best Buy, as far as in-store retailers, really big on that, and we do see a lot of users that are totally open to that. So that's going to help you recoup some of your costs, stop that return, even if it is a damage process, from becoming a total loss. And then, of course, just an extension of that, if it is unsellable, you can't even send it to eBay or the open box, consider donating it, so you're still getting some good out of that. Of course, aside from the obvious benefit from the recipients, of course, it's good for your company's reputation as well. And then, of course, if it's, totally unsellable, if it was a manufacturer defect, things like that, maybe that's a situation where you consider actually sending that back to your manufacturer. So just a few more points here when it comes to your holiday returns. Anticipate the increase. So as we saw at the start here today, 2.5 times returns on the 26th, 27th, right after the holidays compared to the rest of the year. So aside from just preparing for that when it comes to your financials, make sure that you have staff on hand. So if you need extra people in the warehouse that day to process your returns, basically anticipate that you may be more busy, even though it is around the holidays. You'd think things would possibly slow down after the 25th. Maybe it is a situation where you need more resources. Even if you're not necessarily concerned about getting all of those back right away, make sure that you have people available for the support that we mentioned. So whether that be live chat, they can do that remotely, or a support phone line, even just addressing emails. You do want to make sure that you have staff and resources available for all of this. With that, if you are making support available through phone calls, through live chat, through email, be upfront about when they can expect a response, whether that's posting certain support hours, hey, we're available to take your phone calls between 8 and 8 or 9 and 5, whatever the case may be, or even that if it's if you're not at the bandwidth yet where you can have dedicated people available for phone support, even if that's just an autoresponder on your emails that says, hey, thanks for your email. We're going to do our best to get back to you within 24 hours, things like that. So when the customer knows where they stand, that's definitely going to help out. And again, make sure that you have your employees trained up on what your return policies are. The whole point here of having a clear policy is something that you guys can stick to, something that for both your customers, but then also your employees. And you want to make sure that you guys are sticking to your guidelines, even if it's a situation where maybe you're out of the office or you're on vacation or you're gone for the holidays. It is really important to make sure that everyone there is on the same page. And again, just an extension, as we were mentioning, the return window that we have available. Holidays, especially, maybe a little bit more hectic. While we do see the jump in returns right after the holidays, maybe someone put that gift away and they forgot about it for 30 or 45 or 60 days. So with the gift giving, it's a little bit different situation from just your normal typical buyer. So maybe in this situation, it does make sense for you guys to open up that window. Maybe as opposed to just having a really strict guideline, you are a little bit more lenient. Again, it's all going to be tailored to your individual operation. But again, even though you may be hesitant to take those returns 45 or 60 days out because it feels like you're just losing money, again, remember those stats that we saw. Think of the 2-year period. Think of those sales either going way down or way up based on what you've allowed for your returns for the customer. So again, all of this is geared towards the big picture. A few more things about what we do with our users to make this as easy as possible. Again, we are the leading web-based shipping solution, so we're cloud-based. Anywhere you've got internet, you log in, you can pull orders from all your different selling channels, make this whole process really, really easy. Again, the main features that we see our users taking advantage of when it comes to these returns, the big one, of course, automatically including a return label. Every time I print a label for one of my outgoing orders, we can just automatically generate that return label. It goes in with the packing slip, and then you don't really even think about it. It just happens. The customer gets it. If they do need to return, it's right there. It's available for them. Of course, auto creation of RMAs is something that's available in ShipStation as well. And then what makes it really easy, if you are doing things on demand, so you just give return labels when a customer calls in and asks for one, it's really easy in ShipStation if you just quickly search that customer, and you can actually email that label directly from in-app to the customer. So there's no printing out the label and then sending it in an envelope, or downloading the label and then adding it as an attachment, having to send it from your personal email client, things like that. All of this can be done automatically from within ShipStation. And then, of course, tracking as well. Not only do we want your customer to see where their returns stand, if you're paying for these returns as well, you want to know where your products are on the way back to you. And so that tracking is going to be available in ShipStation as well. Again, the feedback from our users is that ShipStation makes their returns process that much easier, which in turn makes it that much easier on their end customer, which, as we saw, in turn turns into that increased spending over the 2 years. All right, guys, and we do appreciate all of the patience today, especially with the technical difficulties there, but I hope this has been useful information. I know this can be a stressful time of year, but hopefully with what we've seen here today, can take a little bit of the stress on the back end of things after the holidays out of it for you. Few different ways of looking at things. I know returns, they can hurt a little bit if you are just losing that revenue up front, but again, think big picture here, and it's going to make that, it's going to help you frame things in a whole different light. And again, all we're aiming for here is a better experience for your end customer, and then of course increased revenue for you over the long run. At this point, Patrick, if we've got any questions, happy to answer those. Again, we do appreciate the patience and appreciate everyone joining in today.
All right. Thank you for that, Cody. I think there's a slight echo. Awesome. So I've got 4 questions written down that I want to answer. Some that are more applicable for me to answer, some that are more applicable for you to answer. I'll go ahead and take the first one since it's relating to mostly to WooCommerce, and that'll give you a chance to actually get like a drink of water since you've been talking for an hour. But before I do that, if you have more questions, send them in now, because there's a slight video delay. So I'm asking it now, and I'll actually get questions in like 30 or 60 seconds. So if you send them in now, by the time we finish our 4 questions, we'll get a few more in. So I'll go ahead and try to answer the first one, since I think it's pretty WooCommerce specific. The question is, so from Violert LLC on Twitter, the question is there a way to process a return so it adds back to inventory and refunds the tax I owe? So if you just Google WooCommerce refunds, you'll come to the document. It's like docs.woothemes.com, blah 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 blah. But it's a whole document on how WooCommerce handles refunds. And in short, I'll summarize here. When you refund someone, you can refund the entire amount, including tax. And there's a checkbox to return the inventory. So as long as you check that checkbox, it'll return the inventory, so you don't have to manually add everything back in. So any more questions on inventory or return? I would suggest it's WooCommerce refunds. If you Google that, you'll find the document. We can send out the link via Twitter or via email later, but just take a look at that doc. So so there's 2 more here, Cody, and let's start with one that I think you might be able to answer best. Is there any way to split shipments if items are coming from separate warehouses? And I will unmute you there we go. I'll unmute you just because I think there was a slight echo before. Can you unmute yourself? So Matt, is it possible for you to unmute yourself? Still not hearing you. There's a little mute button at the top of the screen. And you can go ahead and turn the screen sharing off unless you want to reference something on your screen too. Okay. Hey.
Patrick. So yeah, great question, and you are going to be able to split those within ShipStation. It's really easy. It's basically just a couple clicks, and we can actually build in that automation so that if you know it's a certain scenario where, hey, this combination of SKUs or this quantity of item, most popular automation that we see people built in for that would say, hey, if it's a situation where I have SKU ABC and SKU XYZ in the same order, let's go ahead and separate those out because we know that those are going to be shipping out from multiple places. So really easy to split those up into multiple shipments. You could have those going from multiple ship from locations. So great question. Yes, that is possible. We see our users do that every day in ShipStation.
Awesome. So this one I think we both might be able to chip in on. So the question is, in your experience, do you have any data on, basically, do you have any data on how prevalent it is that stores offer both free shipping and free returns, similar to Zappos? I'll take a stab at this first. I think anytime I think it depends on what, so I don't have any data on that, Cody might, but what I think you need to consider is what type of industry you're in, what type of products you sell. So if you do anything with clothing or fashion, that's just really hard to see if it fits on your wrist, or if it fits around your neck, or if it fits anywhere around your body. You just can't know that online. Good product photos help, but you just can't know all that. So with something like fashion, you probably want to have free returns. Or when I was building a computer many years ago, a lot of parts fail. And so because a lot of parts fail, they give you free returns. So if you're doing anything like that, then you want to have free shipping, free returns for sure. Otherwise, I don't know if you need it. Cody, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't have a percentage of our users that offer that both, but what I see most commonly is that it's going to get more related into the margins. And so I would actually consider, if you're in a space where it's not as price sensitive, where if you roll that cost of shipping into the product cost, it's not going to be as noticeable. I see that much more likely. So a higher margin, or even just a higher price point, those are going to be the setups where I typically see that offered more often. Now, if it's just a cheaper, lower end product where margins are that much tighter, of course it's going to be that much less likely. So for me, it's really correlates strongly along product and margin line. While I don't have the data of percentage of people that are doing that, it generally scales according to size. Cool.
So we have two more questions that are actually pretty related. So I'll go ahead and try to ask both of them here. So two things. How does ShipStation integrate with WooCommerce and the WordPress dashboard? And number two, how will ShipStation connect to WooCommerce? Will it be an API, or will I have to add a plugin? So I guess the answer is both. It uses an extension, a plugin, and that plugin is using the ShipStation API. So how it sort of works is the integration itself is free. You can get it on WooThemes.com. I believe someone will be tweeting out the link in just a second. It's just called ShipStation integration. But once you install that and connect your site to ShipStation, you will then, all the orders will automatically be sent to ShipStation. You'll log into ShipStation to manage everything. Did I explain that about right, Cody? Anything I forgot?
Yeah, you nailed it, and the setup's really, really straightforward. WooCommerce is one of our most popular integrations, so I would say you could have that up and running under 5 minutes, and that's probably, even being generous there, could probably be even quicker than that. Basically, the process is, one, of course, you would start a ShipStation account. We start everyone off with a month free of that, so it just takes an email address at shipstation.com. You can get that going. Once you're in your ShipStation account, there's going to be a selling channels space. You're going to say, hey, I need to add a store. You say, great, what store? WooCommerce. Okay, perfect. Here's the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we walk you through it. But yeah, that setup's really straightforward. The developers between ShipStation and WooCommerce have done all the legwork there, so it's really straightforward. It's not something that is going to require a developer or anything like that. You can have that connection going in just a couple minutes. As Patrick mentioned, once that's set up, customer checks out on your site. That order, address, customer information automatically flows into ShipStation. The idea being that if you're selling in multiple places especially, or if you just don't want to have to log into one place to get your address information and then take that to a different carrier site, the idea here is that you would just log into ShipStation, essentially serving as an online shipping hub. You log in, you see all of your orders. On a really basic level, you could select an order and say, hey, this goes UPS ground, this goes USPS priority. But ideally, we pull in, one, what choice was made at checkout. So say you offer a free shipping option and an expedited shipping option. We'll get that information. We'll see what was selected at checkout, and then we can automate that out. So maybe all of your free shipping orders go USPS first class, and then if someone selects expedited, those go FedEx, whatever the case may be. We can build out all that automation. So you would just log in, select all, and click print to generate your labels. A few other things that are really great about the integration with WooCommerce is that at that point that triggers us to actually post back. And so we talk back to WooCommerce, we send over your tracking information, we update that order status for you automatically. So you aren't having to go back and update your orders one by one after the fact. That integration between ShipStation and WooCommerce does that for you automatically.
Awesome.
Awesome.
There's one more thing. Keep yourself quick. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, there's just a slight echo there, which is why I just wanted to mute you. Not because I don't like what you're saying. You're saying good things. Just one more thing I wanted to mention about that if you have multiple WooCommerce stores, or multiple stores like on Amazon or eBay or anywhere, it's a really good way to put everything in one system, so that way you're not managing orders across 3 different systems. So if you have like 2 different brands but they both sell the same stuff, then it's a really good idea to set up a third-party service like ShipStation, so that all the orders go there. You manage everything in ShipStation, and if you have other employees, all they need access to is ShipStation, rather than needing access to your whole WordPress site or WooCommerce store or Amazon store or whatever.
Yeah, it's a great point there. Of course, our main focus here is WooCommerce, but as I mentioned, it is pretty typical for people to have complementary selling channels. So whether that be multiple WooCommerce sites or eBay and Amazon, as you mentioned, that's our most typical use case, is someone running multiple stores, multiple brands into one ShipStation account.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions right now. Let me just check one more time. We'll go ahead and wrap up, and I'll just take a look in case any sneak in at the last second. But Cody, I wanted to thank you for talking to everyone about refunds and how to prevent refunds, and if you do get refunds, how to handle them well, all of that type of thing. We really appreciate it, helping out our customers like this. So thank you very much for coming on. For everyone who's listening, we will be sending the link to the video on this, and I believe we can cut out all the middle stuff that happens. I believe we can. And we'll also be sending up just some follow-up stuff about, if you want to do this, here's an extension, here's a free plugin, here's a blog post that you should read. So if there's a whole bunch of resources for you. So Cody, thank you very much. You did a great job.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks, everyone.